have Aseres HaDibros in this week's Parsha, 10 Commandments. And one of them is the mitzvah of Shabbos. Torah says, Zachor Hashabos l'kadsha, you should remember the day of Shabbos and make it holy. The discussion in this mimer is this concept of making it holy. The idea of making it holy. It's an act that we have to do to sanctify Shabbos. What does that mean? How does it work? We're of course learning Torah, those that are watching, and we're on Parshas Yisrei. Maimer Zachor Hashabos l'kadsha. You can find it on page 138. Zachor Hashabos l'kadsha. Lahavin mahu in atzivui l'kadesh Hashabos. What's this instruction, this command, where Hashem tells us you have to make Shabbos holy? Shabbos Shabbos on its own is holy, and it happens. It's not like Yontif, where, as a brief introduction, we, the Jewish people, make the calendar. So during the times of the Beis Hamikdash, we follow a lunar calendar. We still do that today. However, we have to see the moon. Two witnesses have to come to Bezdin. Bezdin has to cross-examine them, establish that it's indeed the moon that they saw, and then it starts a new month. 15 days after that would be Pesach, Sukkot, whatever it is. If they don't do that, then instead of having 29 days, it's 30 days, and then the Chasidus starts the next day. The Yontif of Pesach would be a day later, etc. Yontif is something which we make. So much so that if Bezdin made a mistake, they miscalculated or whatever it was, they misinterrogated, and they designated Rosh Chodesh a certain day, it could be off by a day, then it's valid. Because Hashem gave us the strength to make that calendar. Even if they did it on purpose, let's say, for whatever reason, there was some corruption, or they had ulterior motives, whatever it may be, they decided they want Pesach to be on a Shabbos instead of a Friday. So these days, the first days of Pesach can't fall out on a Friday. So they orchestrated it in a way where they made a Chodesh a day later, or a day earlier, whatever it is. Even then it has validity. Because Yontif is based on the lunar calendar, and Hashem said, I want the Jewish people to have this mitzvah and this ability of setting up your calendar. It was the first mitzvah we got. The idea of a Jewish calendar. Shabbos, however, is a solar cycle. Every 7 days is Shabbos. Whether you sit in Bezdin and say, we're making it Sunday today or not, 6 days of creation, we have a cycle. On the 7th day is going to be Shabbos, regardless of what happened in Bezdin or out of Bezdin. The Bishlem, just Yontif, when you're talking to me about the holiness of Yontif, Toli B'Yisrael, it depends on the Jewish people. That's what we say. The Eibishter makes holy the Yidden and the Yom Tevim. Mitchilo Yisrael, v'achach hazman, first the Yidden and then the times, meaning we make the Yom Tov. Mishum the Yisrael inu dekachinu lizmanim, because the Yidden are the ones that sanctify the times. So it works. Avol b'Shabbos on mevarchim mekadesh HaShabbos. But on Shabbos, what do we say in Kiddush? Baruch atah Hashem mekadesh HaShabbos. That Hashem sanctifies the Shabbos. By Yom Tov we say mekadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim, telling us that the Yidden did it. Hashem sanctified the Yidden, and we are the ones, with Hashem's help, with His guidance, with the formula that He gave us according to the rules, we're making the Yontif. So what's this Aseres HaDibros, or this particular Dibra, the command that says, make Shabbos holy. Shabbos is holy on its own. As Chazal say, Shabbos, do the Jewish people make it holy? Well, Shabbos make the Shavakaima. Shabbos is holy, and it continues to be holy from the 6 days of creation. Nika kol Shabbos, Shabbos Bereshis. Every Shabbos has a term, Shabbos Bereshis. Shalamaylo M'chinas Yisrael. Shabbos is greater than the Jewish people. It happens automatically. There's nothing I could do to make this day Shabbos. And then in this parentheses, it gets into a Kabbalistic discussion of how high Shabbos is. I'm going to read through it and get a little bit of a glance of how special, as far as spheres go, Shabbos is. Ki Shabbos is galus chachma ilah. Shabbos is the idea of the revelation of the supernal chachma. V'nikra gilui meichin da'abba. And Shabbos is referred to as the revelation of intellect of Abba, which in spheres talk, it's extremely high. which is beyond the souls of the Jewish people, which are rooted in Zo. Zo is their ampin, which means the 6 midos. Shabbos is greater than that. It's from Meichin the Abba. As the Zayar tells us in Parshas Emer, the Achidon Bei B'Malka, they're holding on, it's united with him, with the king. The Ramaz explains that it's talking about the Jewish people that are rooted in Ze'er, but again, we're just from the Ze'er Ampin, which is Midas. Some souls are rooted in Chesed, some in Gevura, some in Tiferes, etc. The Shabbos, Bevor Sham, the Gilui Mechen, the Abba V'Zo. And Shabbos is explained that you have the revelation of this spiritual term called the intellect of Abba, Mechen the Abba, let's just call it loosely Chachma, as it shines into Midas. It's explained over there how this Gili happens on its own, and this is the key. When Shabbos sets in, there's a certain Sfira, Chachma, which shines into Midas. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to know that it's Shabbos. The day comes, in the heavenly spheres, different things are going on. That's what happens. When it comes to Yantif, if you want to have the true impact of Yantif, the revelation of this happens through our efforts. You have to designate the day as a Yantif. Things have to happen to cause it to have those revelations. The final we have Aseres HaDibros, 10 Commandments, are mentioned 2 times. In our Parsha, Parshas Yisrei, and then again in Parshas Va'eschanon in Dvarim, the book of Deuteronomy. But there's a difference. When it talks about Shabbos, there's several differences, but when it talks about Shabbos, in our Parsha, Aseres HaDibros, it says, Zachor Hashabos L'Kadshay, remember Shabbos, make it holy. In the second set of Aseres HaDibros, it says Shomer. Here we say remember, over there we say guard. It's a big difference. What's the difference between remember and guard? Zachor v'shomer v'dibur echad nemru. The idea is the shomer who mitzvahs leisaseh. Shomer is the mitzvah, all the prohibitions, things that you should not do. Kimayim Razal, as Chazal tell us, a principle. Kol mokem shenemar hishomer pen ve'al. Anytime it says, watch out or be careful, lest you or do not, they all refer to negative mitzvahs. Negative. It means prohibitions, the do nots of Torah. V'zachar, when it says remember, it means fulfill this mitzvah, that mitzvah. So Shabbos, of course, has 2 parts to it. There's the things you have to do on Shabbos, and then there's the things you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. So Chazal tell us that Hashem, when He spoke, He said 2 things at the same time. A human being cannot say this. You can't say Zachar and Shomer in the same breath. Either you're saying, breath you could say it, but not in the same word. Either you're saying Zachar or you're saying Shomer, or you say one after the other. But Hashem said both of them. When it's written in Torah, in Yisrei we have Zachar, and in Va'eschanon we have Shomer. Zachar is Gematria, Ramach Mitzvahs Eseh. Zachar refers to the 248 positive mitzvahs. Now, it's not technically 248. If you add to it half of the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, so Yud Kei is 15, Zachar is 233, together it's 248, which is Ramach Mitzvahs Eseh.
You mentioned the previous memoriam.
Yeah, he references this concept more than once, how the combinations of the Shemes and certain things add up. Zichri, which is my remembrance, we haven't mentioned regarding Amalek, but my remembrance, Imvav Keigmatir Ramach. Remembering is 248, whether it's Zachar with Yudke or it's Zichri with Vavke, which is the second half of Shem Havaya, which equals 11. Vavke, 6 and 5, is also 248. Now you have to understand what's the difference between Zichri and Zachar and Zichri. That Zachar, the word Zachar, remember my Shabbos, goes with the first half of Shem Havaya, which is considered to be a higher level. And Zichri is the name or the word that goes with Vavke, the second half of Shem Havaya, which is more of a Gilui, which therefore it's lower down, is why is it correlated with the second half of Shem Havaya as opposed to the first half? Obviously the numbers add up, but why is it that way? So to understand why Shabbos we're instructed to do it, when technically you don't do it, it just happens, it's a solar calendar, it's the orbit goes, regardless of if we accept it or not. And unlike Yontif, which you have to make, we have to introduce first what's the deeper level of Shabbos altogether. What's Shabbos mean? What's it consist of? And so on. Very interesting. So he says, "V'hinei lahavin calls that to understand all this. Tarach lahavin tchila. First, I have to understand klolos inyan Shabbos ma'u. What's the general idea of Shabbos? V'hinei ksiv. It says, "Vayara likim es kol asher asa v'hinei toiv ma'oid." The pasuk says Hashem saw everything that He did, and behold, it's very good. 6 days of the week is called everything that He did. It's action. And when Shabbos comes, just before Shabbos, Hashem said, He saw that everything He did was very good, and now it's Shabbos, He rested. So, the first 6 days of the week is the idea of actions, of doing, and that happens through, how does Hashem act? How does He create? It's the tzirufei oises l'asara amaris. When Hashem uses formations of the 10 utterances, combining them together, you have many different types of words, letters, and from those letters, which are words, you have creations. For example, maybe Mama Yihir, let there be light. Hirokia, there should be a firmament. Yikavo Amayim, the water should split. Tadshe, the grass should sprout forth. All of these things are words that Hashem said. Now these same words you could use a different combination, whether it's a gematria or exchanging of letters, like Aleph becomes Tuf and Beis becomes Shin, known as Atbash, different codes. You can come up with different letters. Instead of saying, let's say Shabbos, Shin is the second to last letter. So that connects with the second letter. So use Beis instead. Beis, use Shin. Second letter is the example. And Tuf is the last, use the first. So that would be Basho, whatever. In other words, there's different ways that you could take the same...
It's an infinite number of combinations.
Well, numbers, yeah. But the point is that creation happens through words. Now, words, speech, by definition, is going to be a lowering, a descent to the person. It's a descent. You have some idea in your mind. When you speak it, and you're telling someone else about it, you're sharing it, you're lowering it to some level that it's conveyable, and you're sharing it with someone else, right? So it's lowering from your mind. Your mind is much deeper, it's much broader, there's a lot more details. You're going to share an aspect of it. He uses this example to understand when Hashem creates the world, which is speech, it's a descent. Maybe Adam, just like by a person, when a person is revealing his seichel in speech, it's a descent. By definition, if I speak, I'm lowering this intellectual concept and bringing it down into speech. It says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. What do you see from here? Not that it's different per se, that too, but the point is that Hashem has thoughts, different than humans, but He has thoughts. And there's also a level of speech. We know, many times Al Rebbe brings this, that there's a concealed world and there's a revealed world. The concealed world is the machshava of Hashem, so to speak, His thoughts. Let's call it the higher worlds that are hidden. And our world, that's revealed to us, is the world of speech. There's thought and there's speech. We're trying to take energy, revelation, light from the world of thought and bring it down into the world of speech. That's a serious flow, and it requires or let's call it, not requires, but it's a descent for Hashem. The world of Machshava is called the concealed, and the world of Dibur is called the revealed. And it's called letters from the lashon of isgalus, of revealing, the lashon targum ve'asa, from the lashon of translating and going, and letters. I'm sorry. The idea is that letters of speech is a descent; it's a revelation, telling us that when Hashem created the world, it's a revelation of, it's a descent in order to create. Dibur receives from the supernal midas, which from the 6 days of creation. Monday through Friday represent the 6 midas. Each day is another midah. And to reveal that midah, those midas, we have the idea of creation. It's not that you have righteousness, so to speak, and therefore you're known. There's a very big difference between the way a person feels and the way Hashem's midas operate. By a human being, when you're triggered by something, let's say you're driving and someone has a cardboard sign and it talks about their plight and how they're struggling, whatever else, and you're touched by it, and it brings out your compassion or your kindness for the person, and then you want to help them. So your midah of chesed, or your midah of rachamim, is awakened through something outside of you, and it's causing you to be a certain way, to feel a certain way, to react a certain way. That's by humans. That works for chesed, that works for rachamim. I can be kind because I felt the need to be kind. Something did it. I saw something, or I felt compassionate based on what someone said or what I witnessed. By Hashem, you can't say that because Hashem doesn't change. So it would be wrong to say or incorrect to say that Hashem didn't feel compassionate. But because something had happened, somehow you got him to be compassionate. He doesn't change. He whatever he was, he is. By a person, when there's chesed and rachamim, it awakens his spilos in his nefesh, lahashbia, to convey, to give forth. But by Hashem's midas, which are united with him, which is a simple achdus, without any type of change or excitement. This is what it means. Not because you have tzedek, therefore you're known. By Hashem, the midas are united with him. You don't affect the midas. By a person, there's stages, there's steps. One thing leads to another. If something happens, it'll cause an effect to be differently, because they're not ultimately united. They're different. And because this is the case, that the 6 supernal midas are beyond excitement and change. Therefore, in order that it should flow from midas to dibur, the only way that things could flow from the world of isgalia, from dibur to be isgalia, it has to be chenas achirayim, from the back, which is asa. Back is a general term that we use when you don't want to convey something in a good giving way. It's not my level. So your friend, you want to give them a birthday gift, you wrap it up, and a nice card, and you share it, and you smile, and you give it to them. Someone else that you just have to give something to for whatever reason, you're still going to give it, but it's like, you throw it from behind you, take it. Hashem is creating through words, which is a descent, because that's what words are. And it's not just triggered by something. Hashem is deciding to do so, part of him. It's considered to be a descent, and therefore it's words and speech. And that's why in the entire Sheishas Me'Bereishis, all the way until after Hashem concluded, by basically Kiddush, it only says Shem Elikim. You don't have Yud Kei Vav Kei. Reishis Bara Elikim. Vayar Elikim. You don't have a Shem Havaya. Once all that is concluded, and you finish the creation, now we say you have Havaya. Then it says Havaya Elikim. Then it says Havaya Elikim. This kind of Chagach Dafka Shem Havaya. The onion idea is ki yadua it's no mashakostu shemesh umogin havaya elikim, that Hashem is havaya and elikim is a sun and a shield, the sun shining and the shield. So elikim would be the shield over the intensity of the name havaya. Kishem havaya ksiv and havaya leishanisi, because Shem havaya it says I'm the Eibush that I don't change. Right, as we said, Lav Isach Tzedek Yediyah, which was a reference in Pasach Eliyahu, that something that Eliyahu and Avi said, which you see from there that Hashem is united, and there's also a pasuk that says Hashem doesn't change. And Shem Elikim is this shield that blocks, or at least limits, Shem Elikim, Shem Havaya, which is called, also referred to as Shemesh. So you have this projection of intense godly light, which is Havaya, and you have Elikim, which covers it, and that is the shield and allowing the right amount to come for the right reasons. Creation, interaction with the people, and so on and so forth. In order they should have creation, which that happens through the letters of speech, as we mentioned. What time is it?
You have 4 minutes.
So, and afterwards, by the end of the 6 days of creation, it says it's very good. He's going to explain the idea of toiv ma'id. This good is the Yetzer toiv. Very good is the Yetzer hara when it came around. So good is you're doing the right thing, and very good is the Baal Tshuva level, where I transformed, I changed, and I brought it back around. Thanks for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Join us again with Hashem tomorrow.